Morning, folks. It's a beautiful Wednesday morning. It was 20 degrees at 6 a.m. Clear skies, and it won't be long, and there'll be snow on the ground now. Another summer is come and gone. Definitely a beautiful day today. So I want to do a video on a historic Alaska Railroad building. I've done a few. Um, I just haven't done very many on any buildings of the Alaska Railroad because there's not very many historic buildings in existence. There's a few, and I've done a few videos on depots and section houses, but there's not very many original or at least very old Alaska Railroad buildings in existence. Certainly not many in actual Alaska Railroad ownership or on property, but even other buildings that are in other places that are in private hands, for instance. I know that there's a couple of buildings that have straight up disappeared to history. They disappeared off railroad property and no one knows where they are. And we're talking a long time ago when things like this happened. This isn't anything recent. We're talking like, 50, 60 years ago. And some just fade and they fall apart and they get destroyed and no one documented them. So I'm going to do one here on a very special Alaska Railroad building. But I'm going to do a disclaimer that this building that we're going to be exploring on is in private ownership. It's on private property. I will not divulge any names, nor will I divulge its exact location. I am allowed to be here, and therefore I'm able to take this video of this special building. What makes this special is this is the Montana Water Tower. This water tower is over 100 years old and was in service until sometime in the 1950s when it was sold to the property owners here that homesteaded the area prior to statehood. We're looking at the track side of the structure right here. This would have faced the railroad track, and its location was originally pretty close to the north switch of Montana siding. I've actually seen a couple of historic photos one in the 1930s and one in the, believe in the late 1940s, post-war, of this water tower and the section house by the track. So this is really cool. This is the only surviving standard gauge water tower left in Alaska, and to my knowledge this is the only true water tower left in Alaska from any railroad, period. I know White Pass in Yukon has a couple of water towers, but they're in Canadian territory. So this structure is on the National Registry of Historic Places, or at least historic buildings, I believe. I know it is on a National Historic Registry. It's also one of the top 10 most endangered buildings in Alaska. It's the only one of its kind left in existence. So we're going to walk around it and you can take a closer look at the structure. Unfortunately, you can see the roof. There is no roof. It collapsed around March of this year. There is talk about fixing the roof, at least putting a temporary roof over it and then going in depth at a later time. So if you look at the structure, on the top of the turret, you can see the rigging in the pulleys that was used for the water spout. And that's right up there towards the top. And then this structure, this part of the structure right here, was the pump house. This is where there was a boiler that provided the steam for a steam engine that provided, that worked the pump that pumped water out of the well and into the cistern in the tower, and there would have been a smokestack that would have gone up through the middle of the water tower and through the cistern, and that's what would have kept the water thawed out over the winter time. So you'll actually see that in a couple of old photos. Now, I don't know if every single water tower was like that on the Alaska Railroad, but I know that there was a couple that were like that. So, to my knowledge, from what I understand, the 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 boiler may not be in existence. It may have been scrapped, but for sure, the steam engine and the pump and the cistern exist. I have seen the water spout for this water tower as well. When the family homesteaded this area of Montana prior to statehood, they were able to purchase the water tower as well as some other of the buildings that were associated with Montana section. The section house, the tool sheds, twin seat outhouse, and the smokehouse. Actually, the smokehouse is real close to here. So back in the days of sections, if the section foreman was a bachelor, in some cases, section foremans would actually be married, and they would bring their wife with them to work out in the sections, remote sections, and they would sometimes raise a family, and sometimes they were all bachelors. Well, either way, the maintenance people out here, the section crew, they would have to provide their own produce, meaning they had to make their own gardens, and they'd have to do their own hunting for meat. And if there wasn't a Mrs. Section Foreman, then they all had to cook. And in some cases, even when there was a Mrs. Section Foreman, the bachelors would still have to cook. I do know some people that grew up in a section house way back when. And so I've been told some pretty cool stories. Now, Montana was not a full service. It was not a coaling point. There was no coal that was provided to the trains. This was just a water stop at the section. And from here, it's only roughly 60 miles from Montana to Curry, where Curry would have had the coaling facilities as well as the water and everything else associated with an engine service facility. When the family bought this building and the other buildings, they moved this off of railroad land and put it here in one of their areas of their property, and they turned the two-story part, the turret end of the structure, into a silo, and this part, the pump house, would have been a stable of sorts, and it was used in that regard, that fashion, for a long time. And over the years, it's been repaired, and then it kind of lives out that for a while, and then it gets repaired again, and has been taken care of, though. It's over 100 years old, and you can still see the paint, and in some cases I have seen just a hint of green underneath. So that tells you had the original Alaska Railroad green, and you can see that this is a smokehouse. Obviously, it was used for something else other than a smokehouse towards the end of its life. So it's amazing. This structure, over 100 years old, has seen all the steam engines on the Alaska Railroad over the years, all the original pieces of rolling stock and people. Just goes way back, and even now, it stands away from the railroad track, but those with a keen eye can spot the structure as they pass through on the Denali Star or on the Aurora. Anyway, folks, I do appreciate you watching this video. It's a pretty special structure, very historic structure, and not many original Alaska Railroad buildings are left in existence, so this adds to it. Have a great day, folks. Thanks again for watching.